What's up, guys? Welcome back. Been a while since we've done one of these things, so why don't we just get right into it. All right, so today we are going to talk about one of the heaviest albums that I've listened to in quite some time. It is Cerebral Rot's new Excretion of Mortality, released back in June on the 20 Buck Spin record label. 20 Buck Spin is releasing some kick-ass material lately. They had a new Witch Vomit, Tomb Mold, I think it was last year, maybe it was 2019, had an incredible release. Fetid has had some great releases off of 20 Buck Spin. They just keep pumping out some really cool stuff. So formed in 2016, Cerebral Rot is a combination of 4 members from several different bands out of the Seattle music scene. I got a list here. Members, vocalist is out of Warp Vomit, bassist out of Chronic Tomb, drummer Acid Feast, and the guitarist was in Fetid and also Caustic Wound. Now the band formed with the outright goal of creating the most offensive music possible, both musically and lyrically. And once you listen to it, you're going to realize exactly what they're talking about. So why don't we just play a piece from the track title here real quick for you, let you get a little taste of what this album's about. Now, Excretion of Mortality is the second full-length album that Cerebral Rot has released to this date. First full-length being Odious Descent into Decay. Now, that album, I've listened to it a few different times. It doesn't catch me. It doesn't have like the hooks that Excretions in Mortality seem to have. As far as like re-listenability goes, Excretions of Mortality has far and beyond way more re-listenability than the first full-length album. That doesn't mean that it's not a good album. It's just kind of meh to me. It's not something that I just keep going back to. But this one, the drummer especially stands out. There's a lot of really, really catchy drum hooks, and that just I find the drum beats getting stuck in my head, which is wild. I've never really experienced that with any other sort of music, really, even. So the first demo, Cessation of Life, that's just a couple songs on that one. There was I think there were 20, it was independently released originally. Only 20 issues of it exist. It did go on and get like a full release off of Extremely Rotten Productions, and eventually would get a 7-inch release as well on Parasitic Records. You can also stream it off of Spotify or any of those different streaming services. It's pretty easy to find. Bandcamp is a good place to go. Give them a little bit of your money. Support as much music as you possibly can, especially after 2020. Pretty difficult times for now that live acts can start playing again. So as this demo started kind of making its way through, word of mouth through the internet and all that, it did finally catch on, and 20 Buck Spin started paying attention to them. They signed them to a record deal, and now we're on our second album with them. I'm not sure how long that record deal goes, but 20 Buck Spin has been putting out some really, really great material. So if I was to put this album into a box and kind of categorize it, tell you, so that you understand what you're getting into before you kind of dive into it, as far as subgenre goes, I would call it disgusting, cavernous, guttural, old school, grimy death metal, if that's something. I think that really spells it out pretty good for you. Now, as far as if you're a fan of old school bands that don't have as much like virtuosity to them, more just like catchy hooks, bands like Asphyx, Bolt Thrower, Obituary even, maybe. If you like Necrot, that's a newer act that's putting out some really cool old school death metal sound. If you're fans of them, I think you're probably gonna enjoy this album as well. Now let's dive in a little bit deeper. Let's talk a little bit more about the album. So Cerebral Rot's Excretions of Mortality. It's probably the heaviest album that I've listened to in quite some time. It's been a while. I think prior to this, it was either Necrot's last release or Two Mold's the Clairvoyance album, whatever the full title is on that one. Both of those super duper heavy albums, but I think Cerebral Rot kind of takes the cake here. They keep just pushing it to more and more extreme levels. So this album, it just kind of kicks you right out the gate with this this super low tuned. I'm not sure what the hell they're tuning in. I'm gonna say like, it doesn't fucking matter. So it's drop tune music. It's drop tune metal. It's super loose sounding. The bass is gritty. The drum sounds like he's just smashing on them with 2-ton mallets. And then the vocalist has this really great delivery. He's got these low, airy gutturals. Think like Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse, but lower. It's also drenched in reverb. So it gives it that feel like you're stuck in a cave. It just sounds like it's dripping, gooey slime. And it's supposed to sound like that. It's supposed to sound offensive. So I think 10 out of 10 on that. I think they deliver, especially in that aspect right there. Now this is a bludgeoning album that just it kicks you right in the gut from the beginning, and it doesn't really let off the gas throughout the entire album. Now it does kind of peter out kind of near the middle a little bit because the guitar riffs kind of become slightly repetitive. There are some like derivative sounds that they keep kind of going back to, especially with pinch harmonics. You hear a lot of squeals throughout the album that are kind of repeated quite a bit on a couple different songs. However, it stays fresh throughout the entirety of the album because the drummer gives us something unique on every single song. Like I said earlier, I've never actually had a drum beat that gets stuck in my head as frequently as on the second track on the album, Vile Yolk of Contagion. It's just got this da 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 da. Here, listen to it. Okay, so standout songs. There's 2 songs that I really want to kind of pick on for this album. Again, going back to Vile Yolk of Contagion, that's probably my favorite song on the album, and I think it's just because of that drum beat, that blast beat. It's the most unique blast beat I've ever heard. If you listen to it, it really is a continuous da 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 da. It's a continuous blast beat, but he throws in accents that make it interesting and unique, something that you've never really heard before. They did kind of do something similar on their first full length, but it wasn't as catchy as this one. So I think that's the biggest standout track for me. That's the one that I enjoyed the most. Then next song I want to talk about is Drowned in Malodor. That's just got the gnarliest bass tone I've ever heard. It's so dirty. It's so gritty. It sounds like one of those old school Ampeg bass amps just driven to 11 and then slap some overdrive, slap some distortion on it. It's just nuts. It sounds gross. So let's take a listen to a little bit of it right here. Then another thing that you're going to notice on this song, the drums just get busy. They just keep going. He keeps switching it up to something unique. It's not like a typical 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 kind of drum beat. He gives us something different throughout the entire song. And it's got like a groove to it. It's a little bit funky, but still heavy. And it still sounds like he's playing the drums with fucking sledgehammers. All right, so overall thoughts on Cerebral Rot's Excretions of Mortality. Excellent old school death metal album. They managed to keep that old school sound while pushing forward with something new. Again, I kind of sound like a broken record, but I keep going back to those drums. This is the most unique drumming that I've heard in death metal in some time. I just love the way that he adds in like funky beats, catchy blast beats. You ever heard that phrase before? You ever actually heard of a catchy blast beat? You ever had a blast beat stuck in your head? I didn't think so. The only complaint I have is that the heavy use of the squeals, the heavy use of the pinch harmonics kind of becomes a bit derivative throughout the album. They kind of lean on it as a crutch. Now maybe it's kind of like a signature sound is what they're going for, which I guess you could say they nailed that, but I don't know, that doesn't really do it for me. So throughout the album, the drums kind of become the differentiator between each song. A lot of the riffs kind of flow together, and when it's tuned as low as it is, that's probably gonna happen anyways, because they kind of get lost into the mix. It gets a little bit muddy, but that does add to the overall production, the overall feel. That muddy, stuck in a cave with 4 evil motherfuckers that just are pounding the living shit out of their instruments. So I guess it gets it done. It gets the job done. So I can't complain about too much. The guitar tone, the looseness and sound of the drum gives that great feel. It just gives that, like I'm stuck in the sewers, mucky gutter feel. We'll call it that. And as far as being offensive musically, offensive lyrically, I can't find the lyrics anywhere, but if the lyrics are anything like the song titles, here's a list of a few of them. I'm sure they're offensive as fuck. So yeah, they hit the nail on the head. All right, so let's get to our Gutter Vision breakdowns. This album's a complete gore fest, full of highly, highly offensive material, disgusting song titles, super gnarly guitar tones, effective use of bass, with a really, really gnarly, grimy, dirty bass sound. Standout drum performance. I keep saying it, but man, do I love the drums in this album. Gutter awards go to $20 spin for an just a fantastic production. Just really giving us that stuck in a hole somewhere kind of sound. And then of course, drummer Drew O'Brien. He is the star. He's the one that pushes this album over the top, makes it just probably my favorite album so far released this year, actually. So as far as my stars go, I'm going to put production quality, that's a 4.5 out of 5. Riffs, 3.5 out of 5. Execution, 5 out of 5. Nailed it. Got everything done that they set out to achieve. Effectiveness, 5 out of 5. Sounds disgusting in such a glorious way. Overall rating, I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 stars. Go check it out. All right, so let's wrap this up. What else is on my playlist? So this week I've been playing a lot of Melvins, Bases Loaded. I've always got some sort of Melvins album playing, but I've really enjoyed the Bases Loaded album. I think it's probably because I've been listening to this Cerebral Rot album and I just love the dirty bass tone in it. Next up, I've been listening to a lot of the new Mouth Breather, I'm Sorry Mr. Salesman, or at least I think it's only 4 tracks that they've released on it so far. I purchased it a week or 2 ago, and I'm waiting for them to release the rest of it. It's a great, like, power violence, grindcore, whatever you want to call it. It's a really cool release, so I can't wait till they release the rest of it, because I may do a video on it. It's a cool album so far. Next up, the classic Voivod, Dimension Hatros. Great album. And also I've been listening to a lot of the new Hammerhead Grand Currents album. Hammerhead is made up of kids from ages like 13 to 19. I think they're all brothers too. They've been a band for like 8 years. Like the bassist, I think he was like 5 when they started making music together. They started off doing covers of Sepultura songs, which you can actually find on YouTube. So while you're here, go search in Hammerhead, Hammerhed. and go check out some of their shit. They rock. The new album is kick ass. And lastly, I have been spinning a lot of Slipknot's Iowa. One of the best new metal releases of all time, and I don't even know if I really classify it as that. Slipknot's just kind of extreme metal in my views. Of course, I've been listening to it because of the sad, tragic news of Joey Jordison's passing. May he forever rest in peace, rest in power. Really sad day. You see those memes that float around the internet that say, what was the biggest hit for you? And before this, it was always either Lemmy or Dio for me that made me super sad. But man, Joey was from my childhood. I was in middle school when Slipknot was formed, and that just it got me through a lot of shit. So super sad to hear of Joey. Thoughts go out to his family. Yeah, so. All right, guys, so that I guess that about wraps it up. Don't want to end on a sad note. Rest in peace, Joey. You were super inspirational for everybody. Cerebral Rot, fucking keep on kicking ass. $20 spin. Keep hitting us with these incredible releases. There's a few more underground record labels that I want to talk about here in the future. Some really cool music that's been coming out lately. So stay tuned. I'll be back. Eventually, I don't know, whenever I get the chance to do these things. So, keep watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all that shit. See you next time.